Ooh. Guys, welcome back. It is time to bake yet another recipe from my favorite cookbook, The Cook's Illustrated Baking Book. For those of you baking along at home, we are on page 145, making ciabatta. Absolute favorite. I have made this one several times. It's always good. It's never not been good. It's gonna be great. This is day 1 of 2 of ciabatta. We gotta do a little bit of work today. Honestly, today couldn't be easier, tomorrow less so. Tomorrow's more complicated, but who cares? We're living in the present. Let's get started. Today we are just focusing on making the sponge, and for that we need all-purpose flour, yeast, room temperature water, and that's it. This was a panic buy. I'm not ashamed. 1/8 of a teaspoon. And we have half a cup of room temperature water. Room temperature water is something that you can certainly use a thermometer to make sure that it's room temperature. You don't want it too hot. It is going to kill your yeast. Got my favorite wooden spoon, and I'm just gonna mix until this is all hydrated. It sometimes feels like there's not enough water, but there is. Like that. Now cover. And that's it. Job for day 1 is done. This is going to sit out at room temperature for 8 hours up to 24 hours. So it is 3 p.m. right now, and I know that as long as I can get started before 3 p.m. tomorrow, we'll be all set. One thing to keep in mind is I'm going to let this sit overnight on a wooden surface. I'm not going to put it onto my countertop. That is because if you put it onto your countertop, which is stone, actually seeps heat out of the bowl, and it's going to mess up all the magical rising action that's going to happen in here. So just keep it on a wooden surface. I'm just going to leave it right here on this table in a warm place overnight. I'll see you guys tomorrow. It is 19 hours later, and our sponge looks absolutely incredible. It looks exactly as it should. Yesterday it looked kind of dry and not like it was going to turn into anything, and now you can see all of these bubbles. It has more than doubled in size, really, really active, and we are ready to move on to the next step. This is a great recipe if you are sort of hanging around your house, if you have some things to do at home, because kind of every hour, every half hour for a little bit of chunk of time, you have to come and tend to the dough. Of course, have the sponge, more all-purpose flour, yeast, salt, room temperature milk, and I also need to get some room temperature water. For this recipe, you're gonna need 2 different attachments for your stand mixer. So I have the paddle attachment that we're going to start with, and then we also have the dough hook. Starting with more all-purpose flour, we'll throw in the yeast on the opposite side of the bowl so that they don't interact before they should. I'm going to put in the salt. I have a 1/4 cup of milk that has been sitting out and is at room temperature, and to this I need to round this up to a cup with some room temperature water. And now the sponge. Ooh. We're starting with the paddle attachment. All right, we're gonna mix this on low. There's a lot of moisture in here, so. Yep, so mix on low. That's what you gotta do. All right, I think it's time to increase, medium low. It only took 3 minutes, but mine is already kind of, showing the indication that we're looking for, which is that it has formed a mass around the attachment, and so it's now time to switch. Okay, that was wild. I had to move the stand mixer over there because I was not confident that it wouldn't take the entire bench with it. It's, hard work, the machine's working hard, and so things were flying around, centrifugal force and all of those kind of things. So moved it over there, but it's been 10 minutes and I think it's perfect. So you can see, so stretchy, really smooth, perfect texture. All of this is just going into this bowl right here with our plastic that we saved from before, and we're gonna let it rise. I'm setting the timer for 1 hour, but with bread, you always want to also look at the indicator more so than the time. So it should be about an hour, but my favorite cookbook says that we are looking for this to double in size. So that's really what I'm going to be looking for. You guys know I'm baking every recipe from my favorite cookbook, the Cook's Illustrated Baking Book. Now I chose ciabatta because I love ciabatta, but if there's a recipe in here that you love that you'd like to see me do next, leave it in the comments. Okay, it's been an hour, it has doubled in size, and now we are going to start with the first series of folds. This is a step that we are going to repeat a couple more times. Take flexible bench scraper gray tool, move this over the sink. And so now we're going to kind of go down the side and then stretch it up. And you can feel, see how stretchy it is. You can feel all these little bubbles popping under your hand as you do it. Fold over and then turn and repeat. This is us stretching and developing the gluten, very important step in bread making. We're going all around the bowl twice, so that's going to be 8 turns, and then it will rest again. Just kind of reshape it into a nice ball. Okay, same piece of plastic, of course, going back over and then setting the timer for another 30 minutes, and then we'll do it again. There are 3 minutes left on the timer. The dough is looking absolutely delightful. I just got super excited that I get to eat ciabatta later today, so that's what's going on with me. This is a very important step, and it's, I don't want to say, obviously, I would never speak ill of my favorite cookbook. It's just something you really need to kind of read all the way through so you know in what order you need to do these critical steps. What am I talking about? It's time to preheat the oven. It's really important now because we need to get the oven really hot and we need to preheat our baking stone. If you don't do it now and don't give your stone enough time to get hot, you're gonna be in this kind of in-between where the bread is continuing to rise and proof. There's no stopping now. We are headed full steam ahead for ciabatta, but the oven isn't hot enough yet. So you wanna make sure these things are marrying up at the perfect time. Good. And now more stretching. It's the exact same thing as last time. Seeing some amazing bubbles. I think it looks really good. Cover and set the timer for another 30. After another 30 minutes, it's gonna be time for shaping. So I'm just gonna prep everything that we need so we're really ready for that stage. We need 2 12 by 6 pieces of parchment. Another half an hour has passed, and so now it is time for shaping. I'm gonna start by putting a lot of flour all over the place on this countertop, and then also on our parchment that has hopefully flattened a bit. All right, so we're gonna be delicate with our dough because it has developed all these amazing air bubbles and everything. We don't want to deflate it. So let's just be careful. More flour. It's just incredibly sticky, and it's really, the goal is to just handle it as little as we can, and yet we still have to shape it, so it's kind of tricky. Taking my bench scraper gray tool and cutting it in half, because this is gonna make 2 loaves. All right, so let's take one of these guys, and we're trying to make this into a 12 by 16 rectangle. Again, just trying to be really gentle. Did I say 12 by 16? 12 by 6. That'd be crazy. That'd be huge. When I've done this before, I've kind of sacrificed, if I can't really get it that long without, like, I really don't want to degas all of it. I don't want to get all that air out. So if I, can get it into a rectangular shape and get it around what they want, then that's what we'll settle for rather than just like manhandling it. All right, now it is time to fold it like a letter. So we are going to take one side, go towards here, this side up, and we are trying to get this to be 4 by 7. We're about there. Here comes a little bit of scary part. So I'm gonna flip this and put it onto the parchment, and it's gonna be, okay, gentle. There, cool. Same thing with the other one. All right, envelope fold. Top down. This one up. Flip, and there. And now, in a turn of events, we're gonna let these rest for a half hour. All right, one of these looks more beautiful than the other one. They'll both be great. I'm going to gently poke, maintaining those air bubbles, and I'm trying to get this to 10 by 6. This parchment is about 6, and this is 12, so quite a bit bigger. All right, that's all that I want to do, so that's all I'm going to do. On to the next one. Spraying these lightly with water, and then they're going straight onto the stone. I never know how wet to make them, like, I don't know. Clear. Baking them for 22 to 27 minutes. Put it on for 25. And in the first 5 minutes, I need to spray it twice more with water. I still have 8 minutes left on my timer of 25 minutes, but I have a hot oven and I'm nervous. So I want to check these loaves. I can see that they're coloring through the door. I'm looking for this to be 210 degrees inside, so I have my handy poke tool, and I'm going to try and get in, poke it real fast, get out. Oh gosh, hot oven strikes again. They're exactly 210. Where am I gonna put these? Hang on. I am so glad I checked early. There were 6 minutes left on the timer, but these were exactly 210 when I poked into them. Here's the bad news. I have to wait an entire hour before cutting into these. It's just what happens with bread. It all needs to set, the crumb needs to finish setting, and it's gonna taste so much better if I wait. So I'm gonna set our final timer for these ciabattas. We have been at it all day long. 1 more hour, and then we can taste. I have been working at this all day, and now is my reward. Look at those air bubbles. That's what we like to see. I mean, look at this. Bread is the best. Am I right? So good. So chewy. You can't get better than this bread. It's now time for my favorite part, which is giving a grade to this ciabatta recipe. That's right, every time I make a new recipe from my favorite cookbook, the Cook's Illustrated Baking Book, I give it a grade. But I don't give it a regular grade because we like to be extra nerdy here. So I give it a grade from the Harry Potter OWL grading system. If you aren't familiar, it's right here for you. Oh, yeah. This is one of my favorite recipes, and I feel like you guys could guess this, say it along with me. This ciabatta recipe gets an O for outstanding. There are a couple of tricky things about this recipe. It takes 2 days to make. It's definitely a time commitment. Some of the shaping can be kind of intimidating if you haven't done it before. But once you've tried this recipe, it's really easy to replicate, and every time I've made it, I've gotten a really great result. This one's outstanding. Go make it. Send me the pics. It's just a good use of your time. Have some bread to go eat.